The Mandalorian Season 3 just revealed how the Darksaber is won. Yay! Finally some clarity in my chaotic Star Wars life, and it helped me track down who exactly owns the Mandalorian blade. For a lot of years, Star Wars fans have been a little confused as to how Din Djarin even claimed rightful possession of the Darksaber. This includes me. I was confused.
But not anymore.
A lot of people said Din Djarin won it fair and square. I thought, well, that's just because they want Din Djarin to own it. I mean, why not? He's a pretty cool character. His armor's shiny. He's a badass in certain situations, and he is as just as he is cunning. Why not let him have the shiny toy? But there are moments in the Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels that lead us in a different direction when it comes to the ownership of the Darksaber. Situations that lead us down a path where neither Din Djarin nor bo-katan Kryze should have it anyway. Hang on. That doesn't mean I don't agree with what's going on in The Mandalorian. These are just technicalities, and these technicalities may wind up surprising. Let's forget the fact that the Darksaber was never shown as a right to lead prior to Maul taking it from Pre Vizsla. As Pre Vizsla and even Paz Vizsla said, it had been passed down in the Vizsla family for generations. Yeah, we're going to leave that alone for this video. I'm tired of talking about it, and honestly, I think the Darksaber should be destroyed.
It's the only real way to change the significance of the crackling blade and what should constitute as a leader. Anyways, where was I? Oh yeah, let's look at the timeline of events. Maul defeated Pre Vizsla during the Clone Wars and took the blade, claiming to be the divine leader of the Mandalorians. Never mind the fact that we never saw Maul take the Mandalorian creed. Maul has it. It's his. Whatever. Palpatine, aka Darth Sidious, defeats Maul in the throne room of the Mandalorian capital of Sundari. Palpatine is then defeated by Darth Vader in Return of the Jedi. The iconic Mandalorian symbol of leadership should then belong to Darth Vader, right? Then some speculate it should go to Luke Skywalker. Then Luke is defeated by Rey. Hey, I didn't write the stories. So in the end, the Darksaber should belong to Rey, right? Nope. No, it isn't right. And The Mandalorian Season 3 tells us why. Okay, it hints to why. Before I get too much into how the Darksaber got to where it is today, or yesterday, or 30 years after The Mandalorian. No, it's definitely during the Mandalorian timeline. Ugh. Before I get into how bo-katan Kryze is now the legitimate owner of the Darksaber, as per The Mandalorian, a quick word from our sponsor, me. Hit the subscribe button and give the video a big stupid thumbs up. I'm on a voyage to hit 50,000 subscribers, and I'd like you all to be a part of that journey. I know every freaking YouTube channel asks for your subscription, but mine's special. Why? Because it's freaking Star Wars, baby. And I absolutely promise to deliver on my word. With me, you'll get the best Star Wars content YouTube has to offer, and I'll deliver it in a way that's fun and engaging. And it's all original content. No rehashes of what other channels talk about. If you're looking for someone to bore you to sleep, I'm not that guy. But if you want to have fun and party like it's 19 BBY, you're in the right place. Okay, let's get back to the Darksaber and the Mandalorian stuff. I've been through the whole ownership of the Darksaber in past videos, who owned it and when, and how legitimate their claim is to the throne of Mandalore. And when it boils down to it, no one should own it right now, right? Well, we'll see. I've also made claims that Boba Fett should be the only one to own it, and I showed how his father defeated Tor Vizsla in single combat and should have passed down to Boba Fett. But then you have the whole Mace Windu thing. Then Palpatine kills Mace Windu, and that puts us right back to square one, which means Boba wouldn't own the Darksaber. But what if I told you the Darksaber should still be sitting in Maul's cave on Dathomir? Why? Because no one physically took it from Maul. Yes, it's true that Palpatine defeated Maul prior to Ezra Bridger stealing it. Also, so did Ahsoka Tano. But there's a line in The Mandalorian Season 3, Chapter 2, or Chapter 22. Chapter 22 for sure. Yeah, that explains why Palpatine never owned the Darksaber anyway. And it's pretty simple. Din Djarin explains that he was captured and bo-katan defeated his captor, therefore giving bo-katan Kryze the right to own the blade. But wait, that's interesting. Din Djarin says something that clarifies it all. He says, "While I was exploring Mandalore, I was captured, and this blade was taken from me." Did you catch it? Then I shall repeat it. This blade was taken from me. The organic skill crane robot thingy took the Darksaber from him. Taken from me. Taken. Now, that was a line that a lot of people missed, but I caught it almost immediately. I wanted to include it in my review video, but I'm sure you'll appreciate me keeping that video at a shorter length. Anyways, this deserved its own video, and I had to go back and watch the other scenes from the Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels to find clues. It seems a victor has to physically take the Mandalorian Darksaber from their defeated foe. And the last character to actually do this was Maul when he defeated Pre Vizsla. Anything after that is illegitimate. Why? Palpatine never took the Darksaber from Maul when he defeated him. Even if he had, Darth Vader didn't take the Darksaber from Palpatine, and Luke never took possession of it after Vader/Anakin died. Oh, come on, we all know Bo-Katan had it during this time anyway. Hang on. That isn't accurate. Chances are Moff Gideon took the Darksaber from Bo-Katan shortly after the Heroes of Mandalore story arc in Rebels. I know the timeline's unclear as to when the Purge of Mandalore or Night of a Thousand Tears took place, but it really isn't unclear if you think about it. It likely happened as a retaliation from the Empire due to the Mandalorians defeating the Imperial sympathizer Gar Saxon. Okay, let's get off of that. Confused yet? How the cockadoodle-doo is Bo-Katan now not the rightful owner? I mean, Din Djarin explained it plain as day. Hang on. Why is the saying as plain as day? Are days plain, meaning boring? I don't think they are. I feel like every time I'm permitted to wake up, that day's extraordinary. Things to ponder. Anyways, yes, Din Djarin did explain it, but there is the little fact that Sabine Wren actually stole the Darksaber from Maul's Cave of Antiquities on Dathomir. Yes, she stole it. She didn't defeat Maul, then take possession of it. She stole it like a common criminal under the spell of voodoo. So, Sabine Wren never had the right to even touch the Darksaber, let alone hand it over to Bo-Katan Kryze and Rebels. That means the ownership of the Mandalorian sword ends with Maul. But then people are going to say that Obi-Wan Kenobi killed Maul and should own it. Nope. Maul wasn't in possession of the Darksaber when Obi-Wan Kenobi killed him on the Dust Ball planet of Tatooine, so he couldn't have taken it. Does not belong to Kenobi. The way Din Djarin explains it, the Darksaber has to be physically taken after a victory over the current owner. Palpatine, Obi-Wan, Darth Vader, that little bat dude in the cantina, none of them grabbed the Darksaber. Sabine stole it without a victory. By some accounts, the Darksaber should still be sitting in Maul's cave on Dathomir, or at least be seen as just a cool trinket to carry around. If we are going to go by the whole Darksaber being the divine right to lead, no one is the leader in this case. No one is the Mandalore in this situation. But if we destroy the Darksaber and give the throne to someone with the most experience, knowledge, and leadership abilities, Bo-Katan should be the Mandalore. If we go by the legend stories of succession, then it should go to Boba Fett in The Mandalorians. If we go off the title of the show, then Din Djarin should be the lead, The Mandalorian, just because it's his show. And by the way, it is his show. He is the Mandalorian in the title. How do I know? Well, turn on the subtitles in the Mandalorian episode titled The Mines of Mandalore, when he and Grogu are exploring the mines, and just before the weird eyeball cage thingy captures Din Djarin, when Mando speaks, the subtitles call him the Mandalorian. They don't have him listed as Din Djarin, but that doesn't mean he has to lead Mandalorians. It just means he's the title character. Okay, going back to it, did Maul deserve to lead the Mandalorians? Not in my book, and probably not anybody else's. Look, we can debate this all we want. It's fun, neat. But Maul never took the Mandalorian creed. Not that we've seen. Axe Woves claimed he wouldn't follow Din Djarin because he wasn't a Mandalorian. Bo-Katan rebutted by saying he took the creed and chose to walk the way of the Mandalorian. But maybe Axe Woves was still bitter with Maul being an outsider, a non-believer of the Mandalorian faith, if you will. After all, Axe Woves was a night owl, and they split from Death Watch when the non-Mandalorian Maul claimed divine right. Be that as it may, if you lead Mandalorians, you should probably be a Mandalorian. And Maul was not. Not by birth and not by creed. So in that account, the Darksaber should have went to Pre Vizsla's next of kin, Greg. Yeah, that's not a real person. But that isn't all. I said Maul didn't own it rightfully, and that's true. He wasn't a Mandalorian. That means that Greg Vizsla, fictional name, would have been in possession of the Mandalorian Jedi weapon, passing it down for generations until it landed in the hands of none other than Paz Vizsla. That makes Paz Vizsla the rightful owner at the time of the Book of Boba Fett. Din Djarin then defeats Paz Vizsla and walks away with the Darksaber, then passing it on to Bo-Katan, making it Bo-Katan the true legitimate owner of the Darksaber. Then the question arises, would Paz Vizsla have challenged Din Djarin if Paz Vizsla already had the weapon? Nope. He wouldn't have had a reason to. But if we go off the events as presented to us and what is actually in the canon stories, Paz Vizsla didn't have to be in possession of the Darksaber in order to be the rightful owner, thus losing it to Din Djarin when Paz Vizsla thought he was challenging him for the Darksaber, when all along it was his anyway. It's all very confusing, but with this logic, it shows Bo-Katan as the rightful owner of the Mandalorian Darksaber. It feels like Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni are really trying to clarify everything and wrap it up nicely for the story of the Mandalorians to gain some coherency. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments. I still have one more topic to get through, though, that has nothing to do with Darksaber, really much else other than the Mandalorian. And for my next trick, I'm adding a bonus. For those of you who hate Season 3 of The Mandalorian because Din Djarin and cute little Grogu have become secondary characters, you're entitled to your opinions. And I would never try to change your minds, but I will ask you to consider this. The original trilogy was the story of Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader. In the 6.5 hours of the original trilogy, Luke Skywalker was only on screen 2 hours of it. Darth Vader only has 34 minutes in the entire trilogy. Han Solo has 1 hour and 12 minutes of screen time. So if we go off screen time, that means Han Solo upstaged Darth Vader as an even more important character. That's weird. George Lucas said the story of Star Wars is the story of Anakin Skywalker. How can Han Solo have more screen time than Anakin's alter ego? Because most times the main character is supported by other characters. The events in the supporting characters' arcs directly influence the outcome of the main characters. Now, in terms of The Mandalorian, Bo-Katan's actions directly affect where Din Djarin will end up, where his story goes. Yes, they need to focus on other characters once in a while. If they didn't, people would complain that the character has no development. Season 3 of The Mandalorian hasn't finished yet, and even if it had, the story isn't nearly over. So many Star Wars fans complain that The Bad Batch was full of too much filler. But in the finale, we saw that every piece of that filler meant something. The same will be true for The Mandalorian. You really think it was pointless and without meaning that Dr. Pershing's story was shown? That it will have no bearing on the entire story of The Mandalorian or the Mandoverse? What about the Ahsoka show? The Mandalorian, the Book of Boba Fett, the Ahsoka series, and I'd wager that even Skeleton Crew are all tied together. To have The Mandalorian stand alone in this combined story would make it disjointed. So I'd just ask you to reserve judgment of The Mandalorian or anything else until the entire story begins shaping up. We've only seen the beginning of it, and I promise that every side story shown will make sense, just as Din Djarin and Grogu's arc in the Book of Boba Fett now makes sense. We didn't like it, and they could have saved it for The Mandalorian Season 3, but it gives us sense how Grogu returned to Mando and how Boba Fett is connected to these stories. You can like it or hate anything you want. You can even hate an entire series based off 1 or 2 episodes if you want to. All I'm asking is to be patient and let the story form. For an example, look at a novel, the Thrawn novels, for instance. Every chapter of the novel isn't filled with Thrawn being a genius. In fact, there are a lot of chapters in which Thrawn's name isn't even mentioned, yet they're connected to the entire series. Okay, I'll get off my soapbox. I shouldn't be telling anyone how to watch shows, and I'm damn sure I'm not telling you what to like. But that's all I have for today. Let me know in the comments if anything I said makes sense to you. It may not, I don't know. And you don't have to limit yourselves to these two topics. It can be anything in the Star Wars universe. I do try to read all comments, and I respond to as many as I can. So let's get the conversation going. Also, check out the other comments and see if you have any thoughts on them. Help some brothers out. And before I give my heartfelt goodbye, another word from our sponsor, me. Hit the subscribe button and give the video a like. I'm really trying to hit 50,000 subscribers, and I'd like you all to be a part of that next phase of this channel. The YouTube algorithm is more difficult than building something from IKEA, but together we can conquer this YouTube algorithm, and maybe we can even build something from IKEA. Who knows? Thank you all for hanging out with me today. Until the next video, this is Gerald, a Star Wars fanatic, wishing you all great health, happiness, and peace. Thank you all for watching, and remember, this is the way. And positivity in the Star Wars community should be the only way.